So what are some of the forms that they need to pay attention to and some of the things that they need to focus on?
Okay, so if we're talking federal families,
Right.
and we're talking federal families, you've got a number of things. You've got your TSP, you've got your Federal Employees Group Life Insurance, FEGLI, you've got your FERS contributions. So if you're not married, I'm going to explain that to you too. CD Financial, where health meets wealth.
Welcome back to the CD Financial Podcast. CD Financial, where health meets wealth. I'm Marcus C., your host. The man across from me is Chuck D. As always, Chuck, how the heck are you?
What's up, Mark?
Not much, man.
How's everything going?
Everything's going good. I can't complain too much. How are you feeling?
Fantastic.
Excellent.
What's the point of griping about little things? Little nuances that happen as you age. It's okay.
Life brings you a lot of things. Bumps in the road, ups and downs. You just got to embrace it all, man. Live.
When I was in middle school, they asked us to run the 600-yard dash, I think they called it, for the, presidential excellence in health.
Oh, yeah. That's back when we used to actually test kids for health.
The toughest thing for me was getting the vertical leap. Otherwise, I could do everything. If sit-ups, no problem. I could do everything they wanted me to do, right?
Sit-ups and
pull-ups, yeah. But that vertical leap, I got that disease, right? Keeps me grounded. Yeah, but I could go out and run 600 yards and no problem. I would kill everything.
You're
right?
A white man can't jump? Is that?
I wasn't going to go there, but yeah. So, but I could go out and run that, and it was no problem. But no, now not so much. I went with Isaac to my in-laws for that eclipse they had down in Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah, very nice.
And we were running the track, and we were both a little winded. Yeah, to say the least.
And Iceman likes to run. He's a good runner.
Yeah, but we hadn't been running, either one of us. We run a little bit, just the short hills on our daily walk with Barris, with our yellow lab. Yeah. But no. I didn't realize 400 yards was a lot farther than maybe 120 yards.
When you say 600-yard dash, you dash the first 100. After that, it's a struggle, but there's a dash.
We would go, though, boy. We would go. There'd be a lot of guys. I remember, even in high school, I remember I was with the sprinters as a freshman. Yeah. And we did conditioning. And they were all spitting and, just wheezing. And I just came in, and they're like, "What's with you?" And I said, it didn't seem like that big of a deal to run a couple miles. And they said, "You're with the wrong crew. You need to be with the distance runners." And it was true. In middle school, I was fast enough. But in high school, the competition was bigger. And I was a much more competitive distance runner just naturally.
Yeah.
My brother Mike, 11 months older than me, Irish twins, he had a 30-yard, not even a 40-yard. It was so hard to catch him, like all of us. He just had such a quick burst. Yep. Great 100-meter runner, but especially like in the combine, he killed it, right? I mean, 40-yard dash, that was his thing. He could just, in 2 steps, if he got 2 steps, forget it. He was gone. If he dug in that 3rd step, he was gone. You couldn't catch him.
Right. And that was me too, by the way. I was like Mike, because from 40 to 100, that's the top off, right? If you're asking me to run laps, miles, no, I'm done. But short distance was always good.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Ooh, and your build. What a linebacker.
Yeah. Yeah. I timed with 4. I did a 4.4 time at one point in my life. So
how about that?
I feel good about that. That'll be on my gravestone, by the way. One time ran a 4.4.
What did you weigh in at?
At that time, I was weighing about 190.
190, yeah. All love and muscle, baby.
That was it, man. That was it. All love, muscle, and speed. No more. There's a few additions over the years, right? So we have a little more going on. But I'm glad we got down this road, right? Exercise, because our topic today, we're talking about beneficiaries, right? And revisiting that idea.
Yes. And
it made me think because growing up, I've always liked to be in the gym. It's been a good spot for me. But as a man, maybe this is more a male thing. I don't know. I think it's a human tendency. We learn something once and we roll with it, right? So I go into the gym at 16. I learned to bench. I learned to squat. I learned to deadlift. And that's it. And now I'm set the rest of my life. I do these same exercises. Well, a couple of years ago, I hurt my back. I don't know if you remember that. I had those bulging discs and I was walking funny. I was in a lot of pain, constant.
Oh, yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
So I actually hired a physical trainer who works with people with injuries, rehabbing them. And he retaught me how to exercise. So this exercise workout plan that I'd had all these years growing up, I'd always, just get in there, get the heavy weights and pick them up and move them around. And it was good for me. And he was like, those days are done. You're not putting 300 pounds on your back anymore.
So we're going to circle back to find out what you do to health tips.
Yeah, absolutely. And health tip today, I think we'll talk about this a little more. But he told me, he says, we're going to revisit your exercise routine, and we're going to teach you new ways to exercise to build that back up. And that's what we did. And it was kind of mind blowing, because you go back, because again, you learn this once and you go, I'm set. And it's not the case. You know, a lot of things in life, just you don't do it once and then forget about it.
Yes.
Or you shouldn't. This is what we do, but you shouldn't do that.
And just to be fair, folks, it's why Mark said men. He said, because a lot of times we find that our wives and other women that were in our lives, they tend to, they're more willing to pivot and make adjustments.
Absolutely.
Sometimes more quickly than men are. So, it's actually a compliment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a knock. I say that because as men, we kind of fall into these grooves and we stick with them.
And we stay in a rut. Yeah. So, we want to all stay open-minded for this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the importance of updating beneficiaries.
Yeah, so why is it important? Why do I need to revisit this? I put a beneficiary down once, I can forget about it, right? I'm done.
So look at how your life's changed with your physiology in your body, right? It adjusts. So you have to make adjustments.
Absolutely.
The same way, life's going to change. And when it does, you want to make adjustments. When you're first hired, let's say, to your federal job or for any job, you may have life events from that point forward that are just going to change.
You would think most people starting at their federal job, they're starting in their 20s probably, right out of college.
Sometimes even 30s and 40s.
30s, they're getting into that.
Yeah.
But it's still early on in their life.
Yeah, it is. And guess what? You have life-changing events. Yeah. And so you could have the birth of a child. You could have a marriage. You can have a divorce.
Yeah.
And so all these things are going to alter who your beneficiaries want to be. In fact, you could have a spouse, we're going to get into this a little bit later, that you're still married to, but you may no longer want them to be a beneficiary for very good reasons. And so for all these reasons, you've got beneficiaries that you want to visit who they are, if your circumstances have changed, and if you need to make those changes.
Okay, so you mentioned it briefly, some of the things that can change. What sort of things, maybe just to get in a little bit deeper in that, what sort of things could change that make you rethink that should make you rethink the process, right?
Your family dynamic could change. Do we want to use the word drastically? What if you...
Sometimes it is drastic.
Yeah.
Sure.
What if you got a divorce, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you got a divorce, or there was a death, maybe your spouse passed away. And so at that point, you definitely want to move those contingent or secondary beneficiaries up to primary and then sort out, wait a minute, maybe I don't want it to go evenly to everybody, right?
Right.
Maybe in your family, some of your kids, we see this frequently among our federal families and otherwise private too, that they're, some of their kids, let's say they've got 3 kids, one of the kids is just horrible with money.
Yeah.
Or that's more frequent, but once in a while even, they might have a substance abuse issue.
Yeah.
And so because of that, they don't want them, or they have a special needs child.
Yeah, I was about to ask
adult, because I have our firstborn, so Isaac. So they can't allow them to inherit assets directly, oftentimes, because it'll blow apart their other government benefits.
Right. You and I both have family members with special needs.
That's right.
And the thing to think about too is they will lose a lot of their government benefits should they inherit money. So that's something you have to think about.
That's right. And so oftentimes, in Isaac's instance, until he was, I want to say he was 18, he didn't even have benefits like that. So you could have been able to name the child, but as they become an adult, you might need to update those beneficiaries. In the case of ex-spouses, oftentimes we've found that because the spouse didn't update their beneficiaries, especially like if you have group life insurance, for feds, almost everybody has the basic federal employee group life insurance, FEGLI. But if you don't update that, and a lot of folks are just very passive about those forms, if you don't update them and you pass away and you got divorced and got remarried, or even if you didn't, let's say you got divorced and none of the kids are related to your ex-spouse.
Okay.
How are they going to feel when your ex-spouse gets your life insurance death benefit instead of your kids?
Yeah.
Or you've remarried.
Yeah.
And you've been at it for 20 years, 30 years with your second spouse. How do you think they're going to feel if you pass away and the ex gets said to benefit? They're not going to be real happy, are they? No.
It might bring you back to kill you again if you do that. So yeah, you don't want that to happen. So.
Yeah. So we encourage you to get after it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we talk about and again, we were talking about men and women. Women oftentimes seem to be more proactive with getting paperwork done.
Right.
And they don't drag their feet or procrastinate or even just simply ignore it and say, I'm good. Right? Yeah.
And as men, let's be honest, we're real good at ignoring stuff. There's a whole medical. Maybe we'll do that another podcast. But there's unless your arm's about to fall off, you don't go to the doctor because it'll rub a little dirt in it and move forward. I think we're just raised with that mentality of people work themselves out.
Yeah. So we're really grateful that a lot of us have partners. Our wives that follow through with these things, or
Absolutely.
Get on us to follow through with them. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in my case. In my industry, I'm used to following through with those things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm used to it. So we're glad for that. But still, sometimes you need reminders from your spouse to keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Do you want to get into some of the specific forms, the things that people should look at?
Because, let's talk about it.
We've kind of kept our focus on a marriage situation, right? Somebody that's married, but obviously not everybody's married, but they still want to make sure their beneficiaries, whoever they choose, are benefited, right? They want to make sure that they're taken care of. So what are some of the forms that they need to pay attention to and some of the things that they need to focus on?
Okay, so if we're talking federal families, you've got a number of things. You've got your TSP, you've got your Federal Employees Group Life Insurance, FEGLI, you've got your FERS contributions. So if you're not married, I'm going to explain that to you too. If you're not married, then there is nobody that's going to get a survivor benefit pension. But all that money you put into your pension, there's going to be a lump sum. A lot of you in your top right of your pay stub, the leave and earnings, LES, it'll say cumulative. Might be box 19. It says cumulative FERS, cumulative, it says, Federal Employees Retirement System. Or the old system, CSRS, if some of you are listening as well. If you pass away and you're not married, nobody's getting the pension unless there's a divorce decree. Then there is no pension, right?
Yep.
But that means those who are working. We're not talking about if you're retired. If you're retired and you pass away, then nobody else gets your pension if you're not married or there's not a divorce decree. But while working, if you're not married, there is that lump sum that your other beneficiaries can inherit.
Right.
Yeah, I had somebody I worked with that she kept her couple option Bs from her group life insurance that were very expensive.
Yeah.
And she was over the age of 60, but she didn't tell me why. Apparently, she had a condition that was way worse than she had indicated to me.
Man.
And so her son got that lump sum benefit. Yeah. So that's one of the benefits that he got.
Right.
So there's the FERS contribution to that. There's and there's also that last paycheck. Actually, there's a form that you fill out just for that. Let's talk about that. Okay.
Okay, please let's get into that because I think we have mentioned that in passing, the last paycheck thing in passing, but I think it'd be a good opportunity to get in a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, and by the way, if life insurance, TSP, 401ks, IRAs, if you name them, they actually bypass your trust. So if you've formed a trust, you might want to name the trust as the beneficiary. Otherwise, whoever you name in your TSP, that's where the money's going to go, and it'll bypass your trust. So in this case, with TSP, you've got to go online, and you're going to need witnesses to change your beneficiaries. Okay. Oh, Mark.
Is that?
Mark, there's something else.
Please.
When they updated the TSP website.
Yeah.
That was, when was that? That was June of 23. When they updated the website, if you have not confirmed your beneficiaries, folks, you got to make sure and do that.
Okay.
Because they dropped, from what I've heard, about 1/3 or 1 out of every 3 families participants in the TSP got their beneficiary just dropped.
Wow.
We talked about that possibly in at least in the 3-Mott, the 3 minutes on a Tuesday, short videos on YouTube. But if we haven't talked about that before, that's something you've got to go into your website. By all means, go into the website on tsp.gov and confirm your beneficiaries. I have seen the spouses where the name is floating right there.
Yeah.
But it says, TSP says, no beneficiary has been named. You might want to, something to the effect that you might want to move your spouse into that position. It was very odd. And the name was sitting there of the spouse. The wife was there. You could see it, but it wasn't in the right spot. So everybody needs to go. Everybody, please go check tsp.gov and make sure your beneficiaries are named there. If not, you want to update your beneficiaries. As I said before, you're going to need witnesses to help you too. Oh, and none of the witnesses on these federal forms can be beneficiaries themselves.
Right. They can't be in any way benefited.
That's it. Yeah. Exactly. That's the wording. So no way can they benefit these
I'm glad you mentioned that. And I just want to reiterate something that you just mentioned because it's important. Life-changing events, sometimes we think life-changing events, what I do, right, or what happens to me specifically. Sometimes a life-changing event is they update the site or the government updates certain things.
Yes.
That's a life-changing event. You need to go back and revisit what's going on, right?
Yeah.
You need to look at it.
And like we said about our loved ones who are special needs, that when Isaac got old enough, it's when we needed to say, hey, wait a minute. We can't have him as a beneficiary anymore directly, right?
Right.
It's where a special needs trust might come into place.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of things that need to be considered when people get old enough or changing events. So we mentioned TSP's online.
Yep.
The FEGLI, Federal Employees Group Life Insurance, that beneficiary form is SF 2823, SF 2823. Okay, so some people say, well, I can send OPM an email. You could. I don't know how timely that communication is going to be, right? To figure out who your beneficiaries are. It might just be easier, believe it or not, to just fill out a new form. They're not that big. None of these forms are that big.
Right.
Fill out a new form, signed and dated, and that will be the one that will be most current. Make sure you keep a copy for yourself.
Yes.
One copy goes to your agency and then a copy forwarded to OPM.
Absolutely. That's
really important to keep a copy for your own file, scan it, put it in your computer, wherever you keep, hard copy, soft copy, whatever.
Much more reliable than an email, by the way. Don't leave your money or your don't leave it in an email. Don't trust an email to get through forms and copies. I mean, all that is important for protecting yourself.
Even in our industry, we have to follow through with emails because we make emails. And I've reminded team members, I say, good that you emailed, but you better follow through, right? Yeah. Even if there was a confirmation, that doesn't mean that people are always going to do what they're supposed to do.
Because we all do it. We all get those emails and we breeze through and we're like, okay, I got to get that later. And then what happens 6 months later, we never answer that.
Yeah. And most companies have processes, right? As we do. But sometimes there is human error.
Absolutely.
We are humans after all.
Absolutely.
Oh, so we talked about the TSP. Make sure confirm your beneficiaries, tsp.gov.
Yeah, FEGLI.
Online. FEGLI, it's a hard form, SF 2823. Your last paycheck is SF 1152, 1152. That's who gets your last paycheck. Also has to have witnesses to it.
Okay.
And SF just stands for standard form. Where can you get these forms? You just Google them.
Yeah.
SF 1152, SF 2823 for group life. And your FERS contributions, if you're not married, right?
Right.
SF 3102. For those of you not married, that SF 3102 is important. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they'll get that amount that you put in your whole career because there is no pension that's going to be created unless you got a spouse or there's a divorce decree.
Yeah, and there's some room there to get into maybe domestic partnership at another topic for another day. Because I know there's some of that involved there. So
we might want to bring an attorney on for that.
Yeah, that might be something we need to delve into at another time. More time, more resources.
Yeah, and so in one case,
and I just mentioned it because I know some people will think about that.
I was thinking in one case, right? If you're listening and you have a domestic partner, if you don't marry them, right? let's say you don't have kids and they're not worried about it. Let's say you have kids, but they can't get, they're not going to be able to get your Social Security, and you've been with somebody for years. If you pass away, they could get a widow's benefit. If you're young-ish, they get a widow's benefit as early as 60 for themselves if they married you and delay their own benefit. Or if they didn't have much work credits and you made a good living for years, they could get your benefit, and you've lived with them for 20, 30 years.
Right.
Sometimes it makes sense to marry, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're not in good health, it might make a whole lot of sense to marry. Right. And that doesn't mean you have to will, and you have kids, you don't have to will your TSP, your 401k, your IRAs to them or anything else. But they would get a survivor benefit, right? Half of your pension you could elect for them, and they could take advantage of some survivor benefits layered into Social Security. So that it might be a very loving thing to do.
Yeah.
Caveat, if you are terminally ill, I do believe you have to be married for at least 9 months before it will take effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're going to get married to your domestic partner or somebody that you love, you have to at least survive this marriage for at least 9 months. Yeah. So, but some people do a really good job of keeping themselves alive through sheer will.
Yep.
I've seen it. Saw my mom do it when she was terminally ill.
Yeah.
At the end,
It happens.
Even if it was an extra 5 days, she did so we could all say bye to her before she left.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before.
Yeah. One other thing.
Yeah.
The basic employee death benefit. That's simply a death benefit only for spouses. So you can't update a beneficiary there. That's a death benefit available while working, only while employed. And I should say while employed. And it's half your pay plus a little more than $40,000. So that goes, and it's taxable. It's not like it's not like life insurance. It is taxable, but it's available only for a spouse.
Okay. Before we wrap up the consideration, because I do want to circle back to something that we had mentioned before. I think we mentioned it earlier in this podcast. There may be times when you're married and you don't necessarily want your spouse as the beneficiary. Why would something like that happen, and what should you do?
Maybe your spouse doesn't need the money. Maybe they want to give it to the kids too, your spouse. Maybe your spouse has issues.
Yeah.
Is not so savory. Could be addiction. Could be mental health.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yep.
They might not be able to handle the money. Let's say it that way. They might not be able to handle the money that comes to them.
Sure.
Yeah. Just recently, right now, we're helping a family. And we visited and we went over all the beneficiaries. And I helped her with the beneficiary form with Fegley. And she signed and dated it, but waited to turn it in. And because it was not turned in before her death, the federal government says it doesn't matter. You didn't turn it in before your death. So instead of her 2 kids getting it, her spouse is going to get it, who's falls into that category of having issues.
Just not real apt to handle money.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And so, and that's not what her wishes were either.
Yeah.
So you've got to pursue it timely. Yeah. If I'd have known that in retrospect, hindsight's always 20/20.
Yep.
I would have done it for her. But I did not know that she was terminal. I had no idea that she was bad off. On Zoom, she looked fine. She looked good. I thought she was really battling it great. I thought she was going to come out the other side like so many women do. And she didn't. Yeah, and I miss her. But, and we're there for her kids too. But in this one case, that one piece, it's not going to the right spot.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got to follow through.
Yeah.
I guess I would say too, make sure you follow through.
Right.
Right. That extra step. Yeah. Don't hesitate. Right. Or ask somebody else for help.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing. Ask for help. Ask for help.
Because you want to plan your life and even your death appropriately.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And asking for help. So if you don't mind, can we jump to the health tip for the day?
You were just dying to tell us.
Because I want to get back to that. And I think...
Because I'm usually the one that's doing the health tip, right? Mark C is on it today.
Ask for help. And here's what I would say, because again, we're creatures of habit and we develop certain habits and we stick with them, right? It's kind of like men choose a haircut at 15 and we keep the haircut for the rest of our lives. That's how we do it. But
mullets are in.
yeah, hopefully it's not the mullet, but it happens, right? We kind of stick with that. And I was mentioning earlier how I injured my back and I had to reassess my workout routine. And one of the things that I appreciated, because I asked for help, I got a trainer because I was like, I can't. In my mind, I was going to be disabled because of the injury. And
so what did you do?
Well, I asked for help. I found a trainer who works specifically with people with injuries, and he told me, look, good news is you're not damaged for life. We can fix this, but you are going to have to relearn what you do and how you do it.
So what did you do?
I paid attention to what he did, and he showed me new exercises, a lot of the same things. Again, as a man, I want to just throw as much weight on my back and squat and feel manly about it, and I can't do that anymore.
So what top two things did he give you to change your workout when you age or have an injury?
I would say that the top two things that he mentioned to me, one, focus on the things that you can do, right? Because as we age, as our bodies change, we might not be able to go run for 10 miles, but that doesn't mean we can't go walk for 5, right? Or it doesn't mean that we can't alternate them. The important thing is to get something else in there. And the other thing is to pay attention to your body.
That's what I think you were saying the first time too.
Yeah, pay attention to your body. So there are times when you're doing something and it hurts, they'll joke about the guy who goes to the doctor, says, hey, doc, it hurts when I do this. And he says, well, don't do that. Kind of the same thing, right? Sometimes we get into this habit of, I've always done this and it hurts now. Well, if it hurts now, do something different. There's so many ways to exercise your body, to lift weights, to walk, to run, to do all these things that we want to do. And sometimes we just have to tweak it. And sometimes it means we got to go find somebody who's really good at this, consult with them, and have them redirect what we're doing.
So have you stopped doing certain exercises?
I did stop doing certain exercises, primarily the ones that bear weight straight onto my back. He told me not to do that. So squats, for instance, now I have 10 different ways to squat that doesn't involve putting a barbell on my back anymore. Yeah.
Because, I got to be careful too. Because right now I've got an injury in my lower back, so I'm trying to shake.
So what we're going to do is we're going to teach you 10 different ways to squat that don't involve putting weight on your back.
The other thing that I was taught is to flex your stomach, your core, and it'll take weight off of your back.
What it does is stabilizes it.
But I forget to do that. Like when I'm running, I only run uphill, not downhill too often, sometimes level. But uphill, but I still have to remind myself, flex your stomach. Otherwise you could injure yourself and then you can't run a week later. So I got to remember to do that. And I'm only running a little bit, but still, I want to keep running, stay young.
Strengthen that
I'd
core,
like to
man.
go to 97 or so, 100.
Absolutely.
And be young about it.
And I think you can. Yeah,
I want to be old at about 95.
Quality of life is not just getting to 97. It's getting there comfortably and happily.
Yeah,
so.
Let's kick it, man.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, good stuff today, man. I love the conversation of revisiting things, right? So very important. Check who the beneficiaries are. And remember, life-changing events isn't just things that happen to us. I like that you mentioned sometimes it's updates with the government, websites and things. And you just got to go back and recheck it. So be on top of that. Yes. And revisit your workouts every now and again. Have someone professional, have someone look at you and watch you do stuff. And I think you'll learn a lot. Yeah,
you will.
Wonderful stuff. Good stuff today. Well, as always, we want to remind everybody, click the link below if you'd like to have a consultation with CD Financial. Also subscribe and like the videos. We appreciate putting this out there for you, and we want to make sure you're the first ones to get it. As soon as it comes out, you'll see it. So Chuck, as always, man, thank you for coming. Thanks for being here, and thanks for chatting with me. I love this time together. And
me too.
Yeah, so we'll have to do this again really soon. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. CD Financial Podcast, CD Financial, where health meets wealth.
CD Financial, where health meets wealth.